Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Relapse Tackle. In this video I'm going to show how I make the dual wire weed guard. So I used to use these low temp solder connectors for wiring on utility trailers and stuff, but I don't really care for them very much because they don't have the crimp in the middle. So now I just cut little pieces off of them, and you might find that using just your standard old heat shrink tubing will work just as well. But I'm going to use these up because, like I said, I don't like using them on trailers, and this just works pretty well for this technique. So if you haven't already, give the video a like, please subscribe, share it with your friends. I'm going to go through and just show you how I do this. And the way I do things may change over time, and as does it for a lot of other people. You kind of find different ways of doing things as you go along, and this is just something that works well for me. So I'm holding both of the hook ends in my pliers here so that the wires are touching, and then heating this up, and that heat shrink tube will get pretty clear, really transparent. It's got that glue in there too. So I want to keep just a little bit of a gap though. I don't put the heat shrink tubing all the way down to the very end. And then since this one has the 1/8 inch fiber weed guard, I'm actually going to double this up using the next size up. So I'm just going to cut a small piece off of this. Next size up. Don't need the glue. That little red part in there is the glue. So I'm just going to put it over top of another one here. I have a few of them that are already made up. And that's the way I would do it too, is I just make up tons of them and then pour them. I wouldn't be doing this process while I'm trying to pour them, but to speed the video up a little bit, I'm kind of just showing the whole process all at once. So there, I heated it up, and now I'm actually sliding it up a little ways because it was a little bit too far down to that hooked end. So I want a little bit of a gap there. Now I'm going to hook it onto my hook. The hook just slides through, and then it'll somewhat sit in the mold like that. So I was going to pour one of these, and this is the Arky style jig. I'm just going to pour in the 1/4 ounce, but I forgot I wasn't wearing my gloves, and it's a bad idea not to wear them. So I have had lead go across the top of my hand. Luckily it didn't burn me. I think it was because I was out in my garage and kind of sweaty that day, and the lead just steamed right off of me. But who's to say the next time it happens isn't going to burn me real bad. So I recommend always wearing gloves. See that bad spot on there? I didn't realize this. I was going to get it all cleaned up and ready, and then I realized that it didn't pour all the way. Sometimes they pour good, sometimes they don't. So that's where I noticed that it was bad. Didn't pour all the way, so I'm not going to worry about this one. Just set it aside. I do have another one that I just poured up before that one. So there it is. And you can see I slid the heat shrink tubing off. If you're careful, you can actually slide it up just a little bit, leaving it on the metal weed guards, and leave it on there until after you're done painting, so that way you don't have to worry about getting paint right on the end of the metal weed guards right next to the lead. So there is just heating up the mold a little bit more. Poured in the other two spots that I'm not going to be using. Here I'm cutting the sprue off, and since it's on that radius, I don't want to do it all in one cut. I want to take a couple of small cuts so that I can keep that same shape on that arky, and then I'm scraping the excess lead off, or the extra lead that wasn't smooth. Just scrape it smooth. Here I'm going to use my high temp cap. This is another little trick. So you take a razor blade very carefully. Should have probably done this on the bench, but be very careful not to cut your fingers, and just cut a little slit in there. This is a custom color that I developed myself using 10 different colors of Stardust. Might call it black crappie because it resembles a black crappie pretty well. A little silver, a little white, and a little black, and some other colors in there. So here I'm sliding that high temp cap over top of that, because I don't want to get a whole bunch of paint on those wires. And slide it off of there, and then heat it up a little bit more. I did have it down a little bit too far, so it just barely touched the lead, so I wasn't able to get a good paint cover. Make sure that you leave a little bit of a gap, like I was saying with the shrink tubing as well. If you can slide it up just a little bit, leave just a small gap there. I'm going to let this cool down a little bit. And since it's silver, even with a little bit of the lead showing, it's really hard to see. And since I'm just making stuff for my own personal use, it really doesn't matter to me if it's got one little speck of lead exposed. If you're making them for resale, you might want to make sure that they're completely covered all the time. Hopefully this one poured a little better. Pull it out with the sprue, and try not to ever lift by the hooks, because it can loosen up a little bit in the lead if the lead isn't fully set. And here is sliding that heat shrink tubing off, and then again taking a couple of cuts so I keep that radius the same, scraping it smooth, no lead particulates to inhale. And then I'm gonna hit this with the what is this, green pumpkin brown camo Stardust. And again, with the Stardust products, and the reason why I was able to mix all those colors, and they don't blend when you heat them up, unless you overheat them. You can overheat them, and then the colors will blend a little bit. But the colors go through a special process so that they have like almost like a shield on each color, so that they'll melt together, but they don't like mix and blend unless you overheat them. So it's hard to work with gloves on a lot of this stuff, so Be careful around the flame, you don't want to burn your fingers. This one had a little more exposed lead, so just gonna heat it a little bit and dump it in those spots real thin. Heat it up a little bit more. This paint doesn't need to be cured in the oven, just heat it up, get it nice, and it'll get nice and shiny and smooth, and let it cool down, and then the stuff is ready to fish. So bounce it off rocks, whatever you want. So here I'm gonna put it on my rack. I got it sitting on the floor because I don't have much bench space. Sorry. So that's the custom color that I made. And then I'm gonna use this skirt here, the shad white. Make sure that the long side is towards the head so that when the skirt strands fold back, they're about even with the inside strands. These skirts are getting kind of old too, and they're kind of starting to stick to each other. So you have to pull the strands apart, and it's kind of a pain, but like I said, I make these jigs for personal use in these videos, so I don't go through hundreds of skirt tabs, every month. So then you can spread the wires to your liking. Say open these ones up just a little bit so they're not touching anymore at the ends. And there's the skirt sticking again. Set that up there and grab my other one. And this is the skirt color I used on this one. Can't remember offhand what the actual color was. Maybe you know, and you can put it in the comments. If not, I can look back and see what I bought a while back. But it matches this head color really well, so it's the one I like to use with this. Black and blue works pretty well, and I've had good luck with this color as well. Sometimes fun getting the strands how you like them. Alright, and then spread the wires to your liking. I open these ones up a little bit further than the other one. Alright, thanks again for watching. Like I said, if you haven't already, give the video a like, share it with your friends, and please subscribe for more. Make sure you hit the bell so when I upload new videos or giveaway announcements, you get notified right away.